Welcome to our session. It's on solar PV. The sun is free, and the province put together a great program to take advantage of that. And we're here today to talk about commercial rooftop PV and what is the business case behind it. When people hear solar or green, they usually think about doing something great for the environment, doing something great for the community. Now, solar panels have dropped significantly in prices, and large companies have set up here in Ontario to really make it happen and to make solar a strong business case. And we're here, hopefully, to walk you through it and to understand what it means to take advantage of programs and to increase your bottom line. My name is Wentzel. I'm the CEO of Ontario Solar Provider. We're a global solar company headquartered in Toronto, right 10 minutes from here in Liberty Village. We have operations and offices in LA, California, Cambridge, England, and Teutschenthal, Germany. We're very proud to be one of the leading companies in the world and in Canada on solar. And I'm here to introduce parts of our team and our clients who will talk about solar and their experiences with solar. And first up is Alex Fuentes. He heads our business development team. He has over 15 years of experience, professional experience, including 8 years in the renewable energy and corporate sustainability side of things. Before he was with OSP, Alex was heading up business development with Bullfrog Power. He's managing key accounts with leading Canadian and global companies. Alex holds a degree in mechanical engineering from the University of Waterloo and completed his MBA at the Rotman School of Management. So without further ado, Alex.
Thanks, Christian, for the introduction, and thanks to all of you for taking the time to come out for the session today. I find it a little ironic that we're, it's a beautiful sunny day outside today, and we're talking about solar down underground in a conference room. But we'll hopefully you'll find it helpful, and you'll find the session informative, and you can get some good takeaways from it. So as Christian mentioned, there's been, in the last several years, there's been a lot of positive new developments in the solar industry. And what it means for you, the property owner, is that it makes commercial rooftop solar a really exciting opportunity. And so today what I'm going to do, as Christian alluded to, I'm going to step through with you what that opportunity looks like for property owners, what you should think about when you're partnering with a developer in this space, and then give you help explain how does a solar rooftop lease work. Give you an example to give you a sense of some of the revenue opportunity that's available to you, and then I'll end off with some commonly asked questions and. There's in terms of misconceptions or other areas of questions in terms of the industry. So before I jump into the opportunity, I just want to take just a minute just to explain, give you a quick overview on Ontario Solar Provider if you are not familiar with our company. As Christian mentioned, we're just down the road in Liberty Village. We're a vertically integrated solar PV company. So what that means is we have experience and in terms of every aspect of the project development cycle. So everything from initial solar project development all the way through to the operation and maintenance of the systems. And we've developed that experience over 10 years in markets around the world. So when the early days, obviously, I'm sure many of you have read Germany is very much ahead on solar, as is the rest of Europe, and so our team, has a deep experience in terms of those markets developing projects in Germany at those times, in Italy, in the UK, and then obviously we've done quite a few projects here in Canada and the U.S. In terms of the Ontario Feed-In Tariff program, we've done over 100 commercial scale projects here in Ontario, and globally we've completed over 100 megawatts, and that includes both feed-in tariff programs and then in other jurisdictions things like net metering programs, in particular in California. Being vertically integrated and being able to manage the process seamlessly from beginning to end means that we can focus on ensuring that there's timely delivery of the project, that the costs are maintained to a minimum, and that ultimately at the end of the day the system that's on your rooftop is going to be the highest quality, and it's going to be a safe system to operate. So that's a little bit about us, but I'll jump into what's the opportunity for property owners right now. It's an exciting one. Just by a show of hands, I imagine the majority of you are familiar with Ontario's Feed-In Tariff program. If you can, how many of you have heard of it or are familiar with it? Okay, so a handful actually. So the Feed-In Tariff program is, as Christian alluded to, it's a provincial program. It's in its technically fifth iteration right now. And essentially what it does is it pays a premium rate for 100% of the power that's generated through solar PV installations through a guaranteed 20-year contract. And that's based on a fixed price. So beyond a government bond or a GIC, it's pretty hard to find a better, more secure investment than a contract through the Feed-In Tariff program. So that's the Feed-In Tariff program here in Ontario is what's really driving the renewable energy market, in particular the solar market here. And once you've got a solar PV system on your roof, obviously that is generating clean, renewable energy, and that's zero GHG emissions. So, Christian talked about the environmental benefit. Obviously, that goes towards mitigating impacts of climate change and diversifying the generation mix in terms of electricity in our portfolio here in Ontario. And by virtue of being on your rooftop, electricity will flow to the path of least resistance, and it's going to go to the load that's closest, and that's your building. So effectively, you're consuming that electricity on site. The really interesting piece of it is that you can make money at this, right? The program has been very successful, and through a rooftop lease model, which I'll get into in a minute in terms of how it works and give you some of the details on that. But through a rooftop lease model, at zero capital cost to you, the property owner, you can have a solar PV installation on your rooftop, and you're earning a steady stream of revenue every year based on the electricity that's produced and the premiums that are paid from the province for that electricity generation. Now, a number of our customers, or a number of our partners that we work with, like you, they'll have a number of different business priorities. So that's new revenue. It's a new revenue stream that you didn't have before that now you can apply to different projects or different initiatives that you have on the go. Many of the clients we work with are focused on energy conservation, energy reduction in their buildings. They want to reduce how much power they use. They want to increase efficiency. And so you can think of this as a way to fund those kind of projects or other business priorities that you have. The other aspect of this that's interesting, and depending on whether it's your company or maybe it's a tenant that you have in the building, that is conscious of its reputation, conscious of its role in the community. There's a significant and a positive PR benefit associated with these projects. And part of the capability of our team in-house is to work with the client where they have an interest in that area. Some choose not to. For some it's important. Do a launch event of the project. We actually have one coming up next week on Tuesday. And if you're interested in finding out more about that, just feel free to come and talk to us after the panel. But we're launching a project on Tuesday at with a company called Metro Label, and they're just up at the 401 and DVP area. And so we've done a large commercial rooftop project there, and it's a great opportunity to come out and see firsthand, what do these projects look like, how are they set up on the roof, and so we'll have some local politicians there. We'll have executives from Metro Label that can speak to the experience, and it's a great way to get the story picked up in the media. Again, engage their tenants, that kind of thing. So that's the kind of support we also provide in terms of communication. And then the last area, as a property owner, you're very conscious of your roof. And after me, Peter is going to get into a bit more detail around the evolution of racking systems and aspects in terms of installing solar on a rooftop. But at a high level, there are significant benefits. So, one, any roof repairs that are required can be done prior to installation. But effectively, what the panels do is, you can imagine you've got the sun beating down on your roof constantly, day after day. Most of those are black roofs. They're absorbing the UV radiation, and that's damaging your roof. Right? You put a system of solar panels there, and they're absorbing that UV. They're using that to generate electricity, and so it adds a significant amount of life to your roof. So it protects your investment. The other aspect that's interesting as well is from there's been studies that our company and others have done. For example, in markets like California, where obviously there's a lot more sun, and there's cooling loads, just like there is here in the summer. And with the panels on your roof, you can actually reduce your cooling load, so it keeps the building cooler. You're not spending as much money to air condition the building. So that's the opportunity at a high level in terms of various benefits in various areas that you can take advantage of. So assuming that's attractive, we've had so many clients come on board and do this with us over the years. The next question you have to ask yourself is, so what partner am I going to choose? What solar development partner am I going to choose to do this project? The thing with solar is you want to make sure that you get it done right the first time, because you've got one shot, and then that system is on your roof for 20 years. So you want to make sure you're selecting the right partner. Things to look for, when you're thinking about that, are experience. So you want to obviously work with a partner that's done many of these projects before. They know the ins and outs of it, and they also understand every aspect of the project. And what I mean by that is, when you're dealing with a vertically integrated solar development partner, so they understand development, they understand design, they understand the engineering, the procurement, the construction, all the way through to the operation and maintenance of the system. You have someone that understands every aspect of that. And it allows you not to worry about all those different pieces. What it also allows you to have is one point of contact. So there are companies in the solar space that focus on just one aspect of the value chain, right? So there are companies, for example, that will just do the EPC, or the engineering, procurement, construction of a project. For those guys, what they'll do is they'll outsource the development of it. They'll outsource the construction. Or maybe they'll outsource the operation and maintenance down the road. You end up working with 5 or 6 different companies through the life of the project, and that can be a challenge for you as a property owner, because now you're dealing with lots of different points of contact. It can be issues in terms of continuity on the project, making sure information passes properly through the process, And in often cases, what happens in those situations is there's a lot of finger pointing. Someone makes a mistake, says, "Oh, it wasn't me. It was that company that did that piece of it." You want to avoid that hassle. You want to have one point of contact, one company that is accountable and responsible for the whole thing. That makes it easier on you. The other thing you want to understand is that there's dedicated funding and support available for the project. And when I say dedicated funding, I mean from a financial standpoint, you want to make sure that that company's strong and they're going to be there for the long term. And you can run into issues again with in particular certain companies that just focus on one part of the value chain. For example, they might just do construction, and for them financially, if construction projects for whatever reason start to wind down for them, that's it. Their cash flow is gone, and that company it's very difficult for them to stay in business. Where you have a fully integrated developer, what they'll do, and in our case, we own the project, so we have a steady stream of cash flows coming from the provincial government in terms of the electricity being generated on those projects. So you multiply that over hundreds of projects, over 20 years, a guaranteed government investment. You have the financial backing to ensure that you're going to be around for the long term. And beyond that, having that exposure in terms of internationally, not just focusing on one market in particular, but having a diversified approach, just like you would with your investments, or so you want to provide a developer that also has operations in other markets that is going to be strong from a financial standpoint that way. When I mention support, what I mean by that is the resources that you have at your disposal in-house in terms of the solar partner that you're working with. So as an example, with Ontario Solar Provider, we have everything from the engineers, the electricians, the construction crews, all in-house. We have folks that are following all the policy developments in terms of the IESO and the Feed-In Tariff program. So we have the full team to support the project throughout the value chain. Because you're dealing with your billing and you're dealing with your rooftop, you want to make sure that you've got the insurance as well, so that a developer has the proper insurance to cover anything associated with the system. So that would include things like insurance in terms of any potential damage. I can say that for our company, we've never had any incidents from that standpoint. Things like business interruption insurance. Again, we're very much in and out in terms of the construction process. It's a very quick and non-invasive process. And Mike, one of our clients, can speak to his experience with that a little further on. But you want to make sure you have those insurance and the proper certifications in terms of electrical contracting and that kind of thing in place as well. And then I mentioned briefly, obviously it's good to have someone that can support you if it's important to you to communicate your project with your stakeholders, whether it's your tenant or other people in the community. So to help explain a rooftop lease for solar, it's really the easiest approach for you, the property owner, in terms of how to participate and get involved in a solar system so that you can secure revenues from that. How does it work? So, and I'll read this out because it's very straightforward, probably the easiest thing to do. So the solar developer enters into a rooftop lease with you, the property owner. The solar developer builds, owns, and operates the solar system on you, the property owner's roof. And in return for leasing your rooftop for the installation, the solar developer makes regular lease payments on an annual basis to the property owner for 20 years. And so it's a very attractive investment from that standpoint. I mean, how many buildings do you know that owning them pays you, right? So it's from that standpoint, it's very interesting. There's different ways to structure that. The most common way is that annual payment. So basically, what we're doing is we're owning the system on the roof. We're generating electricity from that. We're selling that to the grid, and through the Feed-In Tariff program, they're paying a premium rate for the electricity that's generated. We're then giving you a percentage, a share of that, and in return for leasing a roof. It's effectively a percentage share lease payment to you. Now, there's lots of different benefits associated with that. I mentioned zero capital cost up front. Sometimes we get the question, well, I don't have the money right now to invest in a system. We take care of all the financing of it up front. We take care of all of that. So no out-of-pocket costs in terms of buying components of a system and that kind of thing for you. You get the steady stream of lease payments. Again, you can use those revenues to help fund different business priorities, whether it's energy retrofits or getting your energy consumption down. It's a great thing in parallel. You've got the environmental benefits of renewable energy that are generating money for you, and you can also save money by then taking that revenue and investing it into projects that help you, reduce your energy consumption. And lastly, the reputational benefit of that. So what does it look like? Let's get into some interesting numbers, right? Here's an example. You have a large commercial or industrial building. Let's say it's 70,000 square feet of roof space. The maximum allowable size under the Feed-In Tariff program and a roof of that size could accommodate a 500 kilowatt AC system. To translate that, or what does that mean for you? Effectively, in terms of an annual lease payment, that means $30,000 to you, the property owner, every year for 20 years. Now, some of you may have larger portfolios. Maybe you have 4 or 5 buildings. Maybe you've got 10, 15, whatever it happens to be. Just take 5 buildings of that size. You could generate an annual revenue stream of around $150,000. So it gives you a sense of what the revenue opportunity is that's available there. And right now that roof space is just sitting idle. You own that asset, but you could be leveraging it further in terms of driving additional value out of it.
Thanks a lot, Alex. I think this is a very good overview. As the next speaker, I'd love to introduce Peter Aulich. Peter Aulich is the Chief Executive Officer of KB Racking. KB Racking is a Toronto-based mounting system manufacturer. Peter, in his role as CEO, has completed more than 250 projects across the U.S. and Canada, and that accounts to more than 30 megawatts DC. Prior to joining KB Racking, Peter worked for WSB CBP Consulting Engineers in Munich, Germany, and worked for Audi in Ingolstadt, Germany. Peter holds a master's degree in mechanical engineering from the Technical University of Munich. Peter?
Yeah, thank you very much for the intro and a warm word, Christian, and also a warm welcome from my side here on this sunny morning. We as KB Racking, we are a solar mounting systems company. So we basically deal with the part of your potential solar project that's closest to the roof. We design, engineer, manufacture solar mounting systems for large commercial flat roofs, metal roofs. And I would like to touch on a few important factors here that you might be interested in as a building owner. So in detail, I will speak about the structural of the building, which mainly is in connection with the weight that we put onto the roof. I will touch base on a few different aspects that are influenced by your mounting system in terms of system performance, aesthetics, and also we'll speak about an important point, which is roof life, roof warranty. So basically, all the different steps and measures that we take to ensure that your roof stays in a perfect condition and you will not have any problems when you install solar down the road. So let's start with the structural requirement system weight as the first point here. So when we talk about solar, you put solar on your roof, there's a few things that you want to make sure. It means firstly that your building doesn't collapse, which is good for you. Secondly, that the system doesn't fly away in terms of a severe windstorm. So how do we do this? I mean, you see a picture here. This is an example of wind tunnel testing. So basically all of our designs go through this procedure, wind tunnel testing by a renowned third-party engineering company. Based on the results of our wind tunnel tests, we designed a system accordingly to the specifications. We take into account certain parts of the building code, local requirements such as, for example, the building height, the local wind speeds, wind pressure, and a few other factors to determine the system weight. Then we also, I mean, this basically gives us the amount of weight that we need to put up on a roof, or how heavy the system will be that you would potentially put up on your roof. And then we send out a structural engineer and basically check the available load capacity. So analyze your building, check the available load capacity that your building has. So the engineer comes back, for example, with a number of maybe 5-6 pounds per square foot of available load capacity, and then we compare those two numbers and make sure that the system weight that we put on is below this capacity. Another important point here that I want to mention here is the differentiation between a ballasted and an attached system. So we generally try to design solar systems in a way that they're fully ballasted. So that means that if you put solar on your roof, you don't have to drill a single a single hole into your roof. You just go fully ballasted, which means that the system, based on its own weight, including a certain number of maybe ballast pavers, will hold itself down even in a severe windstorm. And you don't have to puncture or affect touch your roof membrane in any way. The opposite of that would be a fully attached system. I mean, we try to avoid that, but in certain cases you might not be able to get around this. For example, if your building is in a seismic area, for example in Ottawa, the building code requires you to have a certain number of roof anchors that would hold the system in place in case of an earthquake. Or another case could be that your available load capacity is extremely limited on a roof, but you still want to do solar, so you might look into either a hybrid system or an anchored system in order to reduce the system weight and still be able to put a solar project on top of your roof. But as I mentioned, we generally try to work around it and don't put any holes into roofs. Now going into the system design. So basically when you look at a solar project, the mounting system determines a lot of different factors around your solar project. So there's a few different things such as the tilt angle, the row spacing, which eventually determines how many panels you can fit on top of your roof. It affects your power density. It affects eventually the kilowatt hour output per solar panel that you install. The mounting system also affects the system weight. You can, for example, choose a low profile system that's only a few inches off the roof, which is usually lighter than if you have a system that's higher off the roof, which has generally higher wind loads. Another point here is aesthetics, visibility, so that's also determined by your mounting system. So certain people prefer to have rather low profile system, low impact. Other people prefer to have a system that's like clearly visible, so they can show your neighbor from down the street without getting him on top of your roof. Eventually, it's a bit of a trade-off in terms of like the different parameters. There's a lot of different factors you can choose from, but that's what we as a mounting systems company help our clients with, to basically choose the ideal parameters and design the ideal system for their solar project that works best for their building and their system requirements. Another topic that I would like to touch on is materials and durability, especially. So, I mean, as Alex has mentioned before, is you want to install solar for an extended amount of years. Your FIT contract is 20 years. You ideally want to have the system up and running for 25, maybe even 30 years. So you want to choose like materials that are durable in terms of like corrosion resistance, UV resistance, fire resistance. So what we generally do here is choose high quality aluminum, stainless steel components that just make sure that the system will stay in place, will stay intact for really your extended lifetime of the project and will not cause any problems. Going over to another topic here that's probably very important to you is your roof lifetime roof warranty. So when you install solar, you're basically installing a bunch of metal components onto your roof. So you want to make sure that this is not interfering with your roof membrane roof lifetime. So what we usually do is we use certain slip sheets that go in between the mounting system, in between the solar components and your roof. There's different options that you can choose from. We often use like a very durable recycled rubber membrane as a slip sheet, but there's also other options such as TPO or EPDM slip sheets that are in line with some of the roofing materials that are out there. Key here is mainly to choose a material that is compatible with your roof surface and that will not cause any problems down the road, which basically leads into roof warranty. So that's another thing that we basically recommend is work closely with your roofing company. Make sure that they're familiar with what you're doing when you're installing a roof project. Have them check the parameters, have them give you a sign off so that you make sure. I mean, they have a lot of experience in roofing. We have a lot of experience on how to put solar on a roof. Use those resources. Make sure that they're happy with what you're doing up on your roof, and your roof warranty stays intact for the lifetime of the project. And that's especially important if you go into using roof attachments. So we strongly recommend to use experienced professionals to install those roof anchors or attachments, so that you have the proper sealing and that you don't see any problems in terms of leakage or water damage down the road. So last but not least, I would like to talk a little bit about different industry standards. So I mean, by now the solar industry in Ontario is about 5-6 years old. People have been doing solar in other areas of the world for 15-20 years now. So over this amount of time, we have developed as an industry a lot of different certifications and standards that make sure that your project is properly installed. I've mentioned wind tunnel testing before, which is a common standard now for any mounting system that you would like to install. We obey to all the requirements of National Building Code, Ontario Building Code. There's certain UL certifications for panels, for mounting systems. There's also a new requirement that's coming up right now that is fire testing, that basically makes sure that in the unlikely event of a fire on your roof, that the system does not negatively affect your building in any way other than a fire would have caused damage without the system on top of it. So my recommendation here is basically just to look out for the different certifications. Make sure that the companies that you're working with, both on the installation side but also from the equipment, have the certifications in place, can show that the systems and components that you install are structurally sound, electrically safe, and will not cause any problems for your building or your project down the road. So with that, I would like to close here. So thank you very much for your attention, and I'll be available for questions later on.
Thank you, Peter. It's great when an engineer comes up and talks about how they tested their system in the wind tunnel. What actually mattered to us is During Hurricane Sandy, how many systems did you have in Long Island, New York, and on the shore in New Jersey?
I think it was about 12 or 15 systems.
And how many panels did you have to collect of the parking lot?
Not a single one.
Okay. So apparently nothing moved, and that's, I think it's great to do the testing, but we have some real-life experiences with KB racking where we can say, where we prayed that it would stay on, and it actually did stay on. Next up, we give it back to Ontario Solar Provider and Anna Zotovic, who is the Project and Business Development Manager at OSP. Anna manages the communication with all the North American utility companies, power purchasers, PV developers, and EPC clients, and particularly with property owners. She has the job of pushing all the paper and making sure it gets done, and she does it very well. So I'd like to introduce Anna, and she's also, I wanted to say, an alum of University of Toronto.
Thank you, Christian. Good morning, everyone. I am going to be speaking primarily on the Feed-In Tariff program, describing what it is for those of you who are not very well acquainted with it, the upcoming FIT application window, which is scheduled to open in July 2015, and as well to give you an understanding of the project development timelines that are involved in building a solar project. The Feed-In Tariff program was established by the Government of Ontario as part of the Green Energy Act in 2009 to encourage the development of renewable energy technology to attract investments in Ontario and to create clean energy jobs in the province. This was established to help Ontario meet its goals in improving air quality and reducing its reliance on fossil fuels. Since its introduction in 2009, Ontario has become the third largest market in North America for solar with 2 gigawatts of installed capacity. So this speaks that there is an experience and maturity of solar in the market already and in Ontario. The FIT program was initially administered by the Ontario Power Authority. Currently, it's being administered by the Independent Electricity System Operator. The two entities have amalgamated early this year in January, and going forward, the organization will continue as the Independent Electricity System Operator. So to go back to the previous question and what exactly is the FIT program and what does it do? So this program allows homeowners, communities, business owners, and private developers to generate renewable energy and to sell 100% of that energy back into the power grid at a 20-year fixed price contract with Province of Ontario. The FIT program is divided into 2 streams. There is, depending on the number of kilowatts of electricity that's being generated, any project that is less than 10 kilowatts falls under the microfit. That's not listed up there. It's a microfit program. Anything that's larger than 10 to 500 kilowatts is part of the FIT program, and that's primarily what we've been focusing on so far, the larger ones. The FIT program is structured so that there are FIT applications periods where you can submit your FIT application in order to obtain a FIT contract. And these happen roughly once a year, once every year and a half. And we are approaching now a new FIT application period for FIT 4, which is intended to open in July 2015. The way the IESO has structured this FIT program is that the fixed price for electricity will decline over time. So if we look at the prices that were for FIT 1, for instance, for a project that was 100 to 500 kilowatts in size. The rate that the government was giving was around 71 cents per kilowatt hour. In Fit 2, they tapered it down to 55 cents per kilowatt hour. In Fit 3, now it's hovering around 32 cents per kilowatt hour. We don't know exactly what the rate is going to be now in the upcoming Fit 4 round. We're anticipating it's going to stay roughly the same. But the reason why I'm saying this is that it's really important that if you are interested in doing it, to do it as soon as possible, because the sooner the application is submitted, the higher the project's potential value. We don't know if with Fit 5 it's going to drop even more, and Fit 6 is going to drop further. So what is required for a Fit 4 application for July 2015? There are three things that we require, rather the IESO requires that we need. One of them is to execute the rooftop lease option. IESO requires proof of site control in applying for a FIT contract. So we need to demonstrate to the IESO that we actually have access to this building and we're actually able to build the solar system on the project. The second thing that we need to do is do a pre-fit assessment with the local distribution company, the LDC or the utility, where we're planning on building this project. This determines the grid capacity of site. So what happens sometimes is that we have a property owner, a client who is very interested in having solar on the rooftop. They have a perfectly south-facing roof, no obstructions, and we're ready to go. And then we find out that there's unfortunately no capacity in that area and we can't connect it. So these are some assessments that are done prior to the FIT application process. That said, it does free up. It does tend to change. Grid capacity changes over time. So if you are in an area which doesn't have capacity, doesn't mean that down the road in the next 6 months or year that it might free up and you might have some more. We also conduct structural and electrical site visits prior to the FIT application period to determine the building's suitability for solar. So here's just a brief project development timeline that kind of coincides with what we were discussing. So for the pre-development, which would happen now in May and June 2015, so we're in that stage right now, we would need to have those three documents I just previously mentioned. So the rooftop lease agreement, we would need to do the pre-fit with the utility to determine if there's grid capacity, and we would do a structural site visit to make sure that the building is structurally sound to support the system. The FIT application submission is in July 2015. That's when we would submit the FIT application to the IESO. It is important to note that not all applications that are submitted get a contract with the government. They have a way of structuring priority points, so some applications are more favorable than others, and we work with Aboriginal groups, co-ops, and municipalities to make sure that we have as many priority points as possible to make our applications the most favorable to get a FIT contract. FIT contract is usually awarded about 6 months after the submission stage. So here we have made it to be January 15th. Once the FIT contract is awarded, they give you 18 months to build a solar project. So from the FIT contract award to the interconnection, it's about 18 months. During that time, we do the engineering, we do the design, and all the development that's required. We procure the panels, we procure the inverters, the racking, and the other electrical components. We do the system installation and then interconnect and commission it. That would happen in winter of 2016 with this FIT 4 round, and at which point when the system is connected, it starts generating electricity, starts generating money, and that's when the lease payments are made to the property owner. So that's, I think, from my end. If you have any questions about the process, please feel free to ask me after. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna. Our last speaker is Michael Dissanayake. They actually represent the property owners, so they have gone through the whole process, the development, lease negotiation, and construction, and they just completed a 425 kilowatt project on their property. Michael's the Director of Program Management at EM Dynamics. EM Dynamics is a manufacturing and metal fabrication company based in Toronto. And, well, Michael, I think they're happy to hear from you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Mike Dissanayake. As Christian mentioned, my role at EM Dynamics is program management and continuous improvement initiatives. So 3 things I wanted to talk about today. A little bit about who we are, our decision criteria as to why we moved ahead with this, and our experience working with the OSP and KB racking team. So EM Dynamics, we are contract manufacturers based out of Toronto. We've been around for 40 years. Our core competencies are engineering services, metal fabrication, and fully integrated assembly. The industries that we focus on are military, medical device, digital media, renewable energy, as well as high-end cosmetics. The company itself has been around for 40 years. We're a family-owned company, and we predominantly focus on metal. A little bit about the decision criteria as we why we started looking at this and how it came about. Our roof, our facility is 80,000 square feet, and we were at a point where we required some maintenance on the roof. And the OSP team and my colleague, they ended up coming in contact, and the experience was very informative. So going through the contracting process, everything was in detail. The 20-year projections, understanding the cash flow implications, having a facility that's 80,000 square feet, which we're expanding it right now, understanding that there's an opportunity cost right there of open space on the roof. By going through a renewable energy channel, we have the ability to generate cash flow for a 20-year time frame without incurring any costs ourselves. So from a dollar and cent standpoint, the numbers made sense. From our end customer, as we transition into renewable energy, we do some work in the solar space as well, and we're trying to grow that as well. So for our end customer, being able to kind of embrace that ourselves and take that on as our own initiative ultimately translates well as well. So it was twofold. We're actually, now that phase 1 is done, phase 2, we're actually looking at opportunities to tap in directly to the systems to get live readings and be able to kind of market that in our front lobby and show our end customers that this is established, working, and what we're deriving from it. Okay? So that was a little bit about the decision criteria as to why we moved ahead with it. Our experience. So with the OSP team and KB racking, peace of mind comes to mind. So we have a large manufacturing facility. We have a lot of staff available. Myself, I was gearing up guys, getting ready for this initiative, as well as any machinery we have on hand to speed up the process. None of it was required. So working with the OSP team and the KB racking team, from a project management standpoint, it was very streamlined and very efficient. So myself and my colleague, we kind of teamed up together to handle this. Everything was presented to us clearly in terms of timelines, expectations, and kind of the inner workings of how it's going to happen. It actually happened in Q1 of this year, so beginning of the year. So if everyone remembers the winter, it was pretty cold. The team was on site, on the roof. They were going, long hours every day. Meticulous. It was clean. There was no obstruction to our day-to-day. We have a lot of stuff going out the back in terms of shipping, trucks coming in, coming out. None of the machinery was impacted. None of our logistics was impacted. It was very, very streamlined. So from our perspective and a project management standpoint, it required very minimal of my time and my colleagues' time, which we definitely appreciated. In addition to that, I spent a couple times on the roof checking it out throughout the process, and if anyone ever does make it down to our facility, we're meticulous in terms of cleanliness inside. And going on the roof and being able to see that the way that the solar panels were structured, how they were presented, they are not visible from the street, but when you're up there, it's clean, it's sleek. We actually captured it and put it on our website as we approach our solar customers, just because it's clean and efficient. So the overall process was clear, straightforward. What I do suggest is if you have any other questions in terms of day-to-day or any of the technical details, regroup with the OSP team or KB racking, and they'll loop me in, and we can walk through any further questions that you have.